All right, welcome everyone. This is part of the BFS Academy that I'm going to be doing. Get a lot of questions about different types of casting and how to get better at casting. So that's what I'm going to do. Down below, and actually up top here, I'm going to put a link to the very beginning how to BFS cast link up there. That's going to go over the very basics of setting up your reel and some common mistakes people make. This one's going to be more advanced casting, like doing backhand and all this type of stuff. That's going to really help you increase the amount of fish that you catch and get by getting into those really tight spots. Like all back here, there's a bunch of different tight spots. I'm going to go over that, so stay tuned. Like down below and also subscribe. Thank you. All right, so the first thing after I get my line untangled here is I'm going to show you my favorite cast as far as like the advanced cast, and that's going to be the backhand cast. That's my preferred way, even if I don't have any obstructions. That's my preferred way to be accurate, and it's just consistent for me that way. Some people have forehand, just like tennis. Some people have a strong backhand, some people have a strong forehand. So the backhand is really going to shine. So I'm not wearing waders right now. A lot of this can be negated by wearing waders, but I have a bunch of obstructions right here. So what that backhand cast is going to allow me to do is get underneath here, and I can hit that whole bank, and there's a nice little cut that's down here. Hopefully I catch something, but that's not what I'm trying to do here. So setting up the reel, if you're already proficient using a BFS reel, then I suggest you turn your brakes down as low as you can possibly do it. And I have my spool so there's barely any side-to-side play. Because with these short distances, you're going to be able to control most of it with your thumb. So basically your brakes are just there in the beginning so you don't backlash right away in the beginning. All the rest is going to be using your rod tip. I'm going to show you that too, how to use your rod tip as a brake and your thumb. That's it. Something I did real cheap. I just cut the thumb out of an old pair of gloves. It works perfect. So I have my lure barely about an inch or so from the rod tip. And what that's going to do, it's going to be consistent for you. You're also not going to get snag stuff on the back, and it puts all that weight right there. So when I'm moving around, I can load that rod up perfectly. So I'm going to get a little bit lower if I can, and everything, most of your casting is going to be off of a roll type cast. So it's like a roll backhand. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow you to load up your rod without having to bring your rod way back and snag up on stuff. So the least amount of line possible is going to be best. I also use a short rod. This is 4'7". That way I can get it right by my ankles. If I have brush all along the side of me, I can get out a cast that way. That's going to be that's a little bit harder cast I'll get into. So the backhand cast, breaks loose, you real loose. And you don't want to do a whole bunch of these. You just want to be able to do it once. Right there, right in the corner. First time. And I'm a big fan of using small crankbaits and minnow style baits for trout. I do have a video on how to fish those using the current and all that kind of good stuff. I'll have that link up here. So before you get to a situation like this, you're going to want to practice, whether it's on like a lake, shore, or anywhere that's going to be open. I don't recommend practicing in your yard if you can get away with it, because you're going to be bouncing that lure back, and it doesn't get you the same feel of using your lure or not. There's a little far. So what I like to do, especially like underneath ice shelves, I have a little cut of a video I'll put right here. I'm using, so like when you whip your rod out like this and you're going to use your rod tip for a break, make sure you're not going to hit anything up there. So when you go through like this, to keep your lure kind of floating like that, like I just did right there, loose breaks, one. And the second thing is using your rod tip, so like lifting your rod tip up, that creates more resistance up through the guides and everything, especially on the tip. So what that's going to do is it's going to kind of like, as your lure is going out like this, it's coming out, and then with your rod tip is kind of pulling it up as it's pulling line out still. So mastering that, you can get it really low, and you can even, if you have like jigs and stuff, you can skip really well doing that. It's kind of like if you're into bass fishing and you say you just do like a regular pitch, and at the end you can kind of use your rod tip. I don't have the brake set really for pitching, but you use your rod tip to kind of slow it down at the end so it just barely feathers down. And that's going to be huge when you're doing that with trout fishing, because you don't want your lure to smash down like that every time unless they're really feeding aggressively. You want it to be as soft as possible. And that's going to be one of your main advantages with BFS is the ability to control how your lure hits the water. Instead of with a spinning reel, you can kind of do it with your finger, but you can only control your line on that one part that that your finger is hitting the spool. Versus BFS, you're in total control the whole time. Like that, you can just have it super soft every time. So this is so the keys to doing backhand cast is one, practice in open water, but it's loading your rod tip up close to you, because you're going to be able to get it right down by your ankles once you get good enough. And then also loose brakes and using your rod tip. It's all feel. It's really hard to teach, but it's all feel. Using that rod tip, if if your lure is kind of rising up too fast and you're getting backlashes, it's because you're raising your rod tip too much. And then if you're just smashing into the water, you're not really doing it enough. It all goes on feel, but once you get it down, you can just get super soft landings. See, I have a short handle here. That's going to be key, because when you're moving your wrist around, a lot of times if your rod's too long, like the handle, it'll hit on your sleeve. So make sure not to have baggy sleeves or anything. You want to be able to move your wrist freely like this. So on the backhand, from the other side, it's just that little. That's all it takes to get your tip going. So now I'll do it in full motion. That's all it is. I'll do one more. Nice soft landing. It doesn't take a big backswing like you would throwing a bass spinnerbait or anything. Next cast I like to do a lot is, especially up where I live, there's a ton of brush that's usually on the shorelines. This stream's a little bit different, but you don't have a lot of room to cast. So you're gonna be casting down by your feet. Let me put my bag to the back here. You're gonna be casting down to your feet a lot. So I'll be like this, and I know, say if it's straight right in front of me, I know I can just, again, using that momentum, like the roll cast momentum, to push it out there. One huge thing that's going to happen is when you do that, you're going to backlash almost instantly until you get the feeling down. That's because a lot of times you're going to have your reel kind of close to you and you go like this, and you're going to kind of have a tendency to push it out. So what I like to do, I have my reel in front of me on purpose, so that way when I release about right here, I know that I still have some follow through. Versus if your reel is close to you and you're releasing like right here, it's too late and you're probably going to backlash. Now a big thing is, um, sometimes you can't see your lure or your line or anything like that. What I like to do is you just get used to the lure and the setup that you're throwing. So that way you know, like, about this much time my lure traveled this far. It really helps you when you have low light visibility. Right there. Like, you just know. And I usually use a Rapala CD1. I just kind of know this is a Rapala UL, like the ultralight series. It's a minnow 4, the 4 size. There's a 6 size as well. This is the shorter one. I just got one single hook in the back. Go over that in that crankbait video that I had the link above to. Single hooks are going to save you in these situations. That's not what this video is about, but you get out of so many snags, your lure deflects off. It gives you more confidence to shoot into those sketchy areas that you don't really want to fish with treble hooks, and you catch way more fish. You're hitting those fish that other people aren't. And what I always do, which I'll be honest, I did not do with this video, is just get warmed up a little bit. You don't just go right into playing basketball through shooting a couple baskets. It's the same thing. So get your rod tip going, super soft, quiet, and that's where your rod tip's really going to come into play. It's the same thing. every time. So once you get used to that, you can hit little pockets. If you got rocks or stumps or anything that you got little eddies behind, you can hit that all day like that. That was a bad cast, but you can hit that all day. That's gonna be huge. Something that you don't want to happen. You go on a back cast and you snag a brush and your spool blows up. You're done. Good thing with BFS, it doesn't take that much line, so I keep a spool line with me just in case it blows up. I can just put it in my hand right here, do about, I don't know, 20 cranks or so, and I have enough line to stream fish. That easy. So I'll go over the keys with this. Have your hand out a little bit further than you think you should, and this is what works for me. Make sure you're not going to hit anything. Like I got some ice right here, so I'm making sure that I keep my hand up higher. And make sure you have a little bit earlier release and you lift that rod tip up and have your thumb on the spool the whole time, like as a brake. And that's what's going to keep your lure up. So this is the forehand, and I'll be honest, this is probably my weakest technique. I'd much prefer, other than skipping, I think I like skipping backhand. I don't know, but in general casting situations, I don't really go to my forehand. I'll try to use my backhand as much as possible, but in situations where I can't, which you're going to come across many situations where a forehand cast is going to be best, I do generally like it for a longer casting, like across the stream here, which it's going to be the same deal. You're going to want to practice before you go out, like a little warm up. I do it every time. Um, your rod tip still is going to be like your major brake, as long and with your thumb. I don't change my brake settings at all the whole time I'm on the stream. It's a little bit harder for me to lift my rod tip up here too because I have that stick, but I'm not going to go to a picture perfect area to teach you guys how to cast around structure because it just doesn't make sense. So I'm going to start low. I'm going to just lift my rod tip up a little bit. I'm trying to slow it down. So in real time, this is what it'll look like. It's not all the way there. We're able to make it sound cast. See, right in that little pocket that I hit back there, that was super. Oh, not yet. See how I was hung up, just a little tiny pull, crankbait came right out. But that's key of using your rod tip and your thumb. You can have that lure just hit so quiet. And right there, boom. A lot of times, like a brook, especially brook trout, because they're pretty aggressive, they'll come up and smack that thing. If you're using like a CD1, like that's my preferred lure, those things are so small and dense, they go wherever you want them to go. And the big thing that I like with BFS, I can reel this in. I'm not messing with my bail or anything like that. I can just reel that in, go, cast. Say if there's a fish that comes over here. Just hurry up, cast. And that's how you do it. All right, this is a real life situation as to where you would pick your strengths and weaknesses as to how you cast. For me, I can still do a backhand cast. I still have a low angle right here that I can zip out a cast. And it's going to be very important to use your thumb and your rod tip to control that lure's velocity. Now from where my feet are, I'm about 5 feet up from the surface of the water. So if I did an overhand cast, my lure would just slap down and probably scare some fish. So that's why it's going to be important to use your thumb and your rod tip to control that lure falling slowly. Nice soft presentation. And again. Now if this situation, if your forehand was your strong side, I'd come over here a little bit, and I have actually a really good angle to hit that log. There's a log over there. I have a really good angle to hit over there. wide open. This is a spot, this big dark spot right there. But you do have some logs and laydowns all over the place. So this is where that flat casting is going to come into play, because if you have wind and stuff that's whipping around, your line can get bowed and sucked under the current and stuff. So it's going to be very important to make sure you have positive contact with your lure the whole time. So when I cast it out there, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to get it right away and just start fishing. Oh, that's a little right in the back there. A little pop. And then however you're going to fish, I'm just going to fish really fast for the sake of time. But however you'd fish that, and you just reel it back in. You don't, with BFS, you're not worrying about your bail or anything like that. You just get it back. Just like that. Alright, just a quick little recap. We went over the backhand, the forehand, and also the modified backhand, the one that's down by your feet. If you can get good at those 3 casts, it's going to increase your stream fishing exponentially. You're going to be able to get to those spots that you couldn't get to before, which is going to lead to more fish, less snagged lures, and you're going to have more confidence with those casts. So I encourage you guys to go out there and practice those. I know I need to practice my forehand a little bit, so I'll end the video here. Subscribe, comment below, and also just let me know in the comments below what you want to see next, because I can teach you whatever I know about BFS. I intend to teach you guys, so let me know what that is. Thanks.